Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. As ever, I am Paul Morrow here on the Ops Desk, and today we have something very special, and I feel quite important. Many of you may remember, about 10 weeks ago, we interviewed Sam Antar. Sammy is an accountant. He knows how to follow the money, and he's been digging into this situation with the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James. Letitia James, quite infamously, a major antagonist, Donald Trump's, brought that big civil case, which in the minds of many, including myself, was entirely specious. And now, as we posited 10 weeks ago when we first had Sammy on, more details have emerged, thanks to his work, that are really putting some meat on the bone of this thing. And now the other shoe has dropped. Thanks to Sammy's work, we have a criminal referral to DOJ. This is big news, and it's not going away. So, Sammy, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on, Paul.
Now, first of all, congratulations on the recognition you're getting here, because the story as of this podcast is really blowing up. I mean, it's on all the wire services. Fox is covering it. New York Post is covering it. Everybody's picking it up. You're a hot number right now, and it's deserved because you did a lot of work on this. So I have here about 10 bullets from your blog, whitecollarfraud.com. And folks, if you want this from the original source, whitecollarfraud.com, that's Sammy's blog, and he has it all laid out. But we're going to let him explicate it now. I got about 10 bullet points, 8 bullet points, depending on how you parse it, relative to what you have found. And one is more troubling than the next, man. I mean, this is not smoke and mirrors. You have found documents, her signature, things that she has apparently adopted by signing or applying for a mortgage that really seem to be troubling. And I got to tell you, even I'm surprised, and I'm used to seeing corruption. So let's start with her principal residence fraud allegation. Explain to us the problem with this principal residence thing relative to Virginia.
About a month before the Donald Trump trial, she had purchased a house with a relative.
Who's the relative?
Shamise Thompson.
No, but I mean, what's the relationship?
I don't know.
All right.
I just know it's a relative.
A relative. All right, go ahead.
They purchased it as, I think it's joint tenancy with rights of survivalship.
Okay.
And they obtained a mortgage on the property. But Tish James apparently could not be there for the closing and the mortgage signing. So Tish James signed a power of attorney over to Thompson to do the closing on the house.
And you have that document?
Yes, I got it from the title company. It's a file document. It's not an allegation. It's there. It's proof. It's linked to it.
I've seen it. I've seen it. Thanks to you. I've seen it. It exists, and it has her signature, correct?
Now, right. Now, before she could turn it over to her cousin, to her relative that was buying the house with her, she had to sign a power of attorney.
Right.
And the power of attorney that she signed explicitly states that I, Letitia James, intend to use this property as my primary residence.
Why does that matter?
Because mortgages that have that are based on primary residencies have better terms than mortgages without primary residencies. And this is her own sworn affidavit.
And obviously, it can't be her primary residency because she's got to be in New York to be the New York State Attorney General. Am I wrong?
Right. And what's also troubling is that she was getting ready for the Donald Trump trial.
Yeah, right.
Just weeks later, she's ready for the Donald Trump, and she's saying, I intend to make this property, 604 Sterling Street in Virginia, my primary residence. Now,
all right, go ahead.
There's a second part to it. Okay, so they get the mortgage.
Yeah.
And the mortgage states that the borrower, which means her and her relative, have to use this property as their primary residence within 60 days. Okay. And have to maintain it as their primary residence for a certain period of time. I don't have the document in front of me. Okay, so there, okay, the mortgage itself states that it relied upon her assertion that it would be her primary residence.
How do you know that?
Because I read the mortgage. I also uploaded it to my website.
All right. So let me summarize. So in the power of attorney she gives Thompson, who is a relative, maybe a cousin,
Right.
she asserts, signs the document, has it notarized, that she's going to occupy the Virginia property as her primary residence.
Right.
Then in the mortgage itself, she essentially does the same thing. And she says within 60 days, both of us, that is her and Thompson, are going to occupy, and they don't, unless there is extenuating circumstances. And obviously, extenuating circumstances would be something that just crops up. And she knows she's got to be in New York because she's the attorney general of the state. So she has essentially, according to what we see, made two false statements in writing that she has signed to a bank and then on a power of attorney pursuant to a mortgage that say she's going to do something that she's got to know she's not going to do.
Right.
All right, so that's the issue of her principal residence. Now, let's move on. We got to move on because there's so many issues here. Tell me about this issue of phantom mortgages on property or properties in Virginia.
Okay. In 2020, she purchases a property for approximately $130,000 on 3121 Peroni Avenue in Norfolk, Virginia. She discloses in her financial disclosures with New York State Board of Elections that the property is an investment property and it's worth between $100,000 to $150,000 starting in the year 2020.
All
She
right.
also disclosed that in the first year, the income was between $1,000 and $5,000.
Okay.
In 2021, she doesn't disclose any income, but still lists the property as valued between $100,000 to $150,000. 2022, $150,000 to $150,000. Now, during this period of time, she's disclosing the property, but she's not disclosing the mortgage as she was required. That $109,000 mortgage she took on when she purchased the property. Now in 2023 comes along and there's two more mortgages, totaling as much as $350,000 because the disclosures give you a range that you can disclose how much the mortgages are. So between the two mortgages that she just took on, and the mortgage that she originally had, it comes out to $510,000.
On a house that's not worth anywhere near
That
that.
she claims, using her own language, her own disclosure, is not worth more than $150,000. Now, where does the phantom mortgage come in? These two mortgages that are disclosed on her financial disclosures to New York State, okay, don't exist in any property records. Were they unrecorded mortgages? Who knows? But they do not exist on any property records. So she has one mortgage that she never disclosed that are on the property records. She has two additional mortgages that she took on in 2023 that she did disclose to New York
But don't
State,
exist in the property records.
but don't exist in the property
All right,
records.
all right. I got it. All right. So the house is over mortgaged according to her because it's over $500,000 in terms of mortgages. But according to her, there's only one mortgage on. No, according to the property records, there's only one mortgage on it. But according to her, there's three.
Right.
Got it. Okay. I got that part. Those are phantom mortgages. I can't explain that. Maybe they weren't registered. She can blame the bank or something, but there's definitely something fugazi there, especially when you consider that the house is not worth anywhere near as much. Who's going to give her over $500,000 in mortgages on some house that's only worth $100 and change? Am I wrong?
That is correct. And also the fact is, it's not her primary residence. Who's going to give her that on a so-called investment property?
That's right, on an investment property. Not only that, but the first year, let's just cherry pick something else out, just to be really picky here. $1,000 to $5,000 is what she claims as revenue in the first year that she has this. This house must be a shitbox. You know, she's saying that she got over 100 and change. She's saying she's got $1,000 to $5,000 in rental income on this house for the whole year. What she's charging for a whole house? She's charging what, $4,000
Well,
$400 a month,
the
$300 a
rental
month.
disclosure is actually rental income, which probably means rent minus expenses.
What expenses? Well, unless the roof fell in
Well,
or
the
something.
property taxes over there, I think, is about 3,000 a year, 2,000 a year.
All right, so maybe she can wiggle out of
It's
that. But
penny. It's pennies compared to New York standards.
either way, the place is over mortgaged to the hilt. But these mortgages may or may not
That
exist.
is correct. And the over mortgaging is only found out by her own disclosures.
Yeah, from her disclosure. No, I get that. They're not in the property records. All right, we got to move on because that's something that, the feds are going to have to pry out of Virginia. I want to move on to the Brooklyn property because there's issues there as well. And so, she's quite the real estate tycoon, this one. Tell me about the Brooklyn properties.
2001, from when she purchased the property until 2021, when she took out the last mortgage, she has misstated the number of units on her Brooklyn property.
Now, this is a big deal. Hold on. Now, this one to me, the primary residence thing to me is a big deal because that's pretty, black and white. This is another very black and white issue. It's not a question of how many mortgages, where were they recorded, This one, to me, she's claiming that there are fewer units than there are. Am I getting that right?
That is correct. Now, in New York, every building, unless it's grandfathered, has to have a certificate of occupancy, and her building does.
Right.
Right before she purchased the building, right before she closed on the building, okay, a certificate of occupancy was issued for 5 units.
Right.
They inspected the property. They said there was 5 units. It's there.
Right.
And the certificate of occupancy rules. In other
Right.
words, if there's a difference between the CFO, you have to fix it. It's called an Alt-A application. You have to fix it. You have to make certain renovations to the property to conform with the certificate of occupancy or to conform with the proposed new certificate of occupancy.
Right.
Now, so it's 5 units. She purchases the property, and in the mortgage, it says 1 to 2 units. A couple of years later, it's stamped on the thing 4 units. And in every mortgage representation, there's a rider attached as to the occupancy of the property. It states 1 to 4 units. Now, the Department of Buildings has the certificate of occupancy. Okay, it's there. It's public knowledge. It could be, or it can be public knowledge. It's accessible to the public. Now, the underwriting for loans is far different for properties with 1 to 4 units than it is for properties for more than 4 units.
Why?
Properties more than 4 units are under the commercial mortgage purview, which has entirely different terms than a property with 1 to 4 units. It's considered a commercial property, and it's not the same terms as a property with 1 to 4 units.
So wait, hold on. I get
generous.
All right. So in other words, if it is a 5 or above, it's going to be a commercial mortgage, and it's going to be a higher interest rate.
Correct. Now, in 2011, I have to give credit where credit is due. This person, Joel Gilbert, dug up that she applied for a hemp modification.
The hell is that?
That is a don't ask me what the initials stand for, but that is a modification where if you have financial hardship, they will revise the loan to give you a more lenient loan. And conveniently, she didn't pay the last 4 months of mortgage payments. So she fell behind by about $29,000, and she applies for the hemp loan. But the problem is the CFO says 5 properties, but in order to be eligible for hemp, you have to have 4 or less units. Now, what I discovered building upon Joel Gilbert's work was I discovered that there were handwritten notes within the hemp application.
Do you have this application?
What?
Do you have the document?
Yes, I do. Right. It's available on my blog. It's all there.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. This document, which shows her application, says in scribbled handwritten language 4 units. And then it says this building may be up to 6 units in the future. It seems to be trying to retroactively fix a problem that she had but never acknowledged.
The certificate of occupancy for New York City, that is, as per the city, who's the decider on all of this stuff, says it's 5 units.
Right.
All right. So she's claiming it's something that it's just not.
Right. She's claiming it's something that makes it ineligible. But the point is, the language that was scribbled on the HAMP application that was part of the mortgage filing, okay, was scribbled the day that she filed for the mortgage. She closed on the mortgage.
So in other words, like somebody caught it at the last minute there or something.
Right. And you have to ask the question, where the hell are the title companies during this whole period of time?
Right.
There's something called, a title search. There's something called exceptions to title.
Yeah.
Where the hell were they?
There's
How
lawyers.
was this papered over?
Yeah, there's lawyer. Word of lawyer. All right. So that, to me, this one is very, very clear cut, much like the primary residence issue. She's saying that it's only 4 or below at every sort of juncture of the history of this building.
Consistently from day one, from when she owned the property.
She's saying it's 4, but New York City says, as per the inspection, and they're the deciders, it's 5. And she has a clear financial motivation to do that because if it's non-commercial, if it's 4 or less, she gets a better rate.
That is correct.
All right, that's trouble for her from where I sit. Look, we got to acknowledge something.
Well,
she's not even indicted. There's no complaint filed against her. We are just talking about what appears to be the case. People have asked her. Fox News reached out to her. She's not responding. But we are going off of the publicly available documents and what appears to be some very contradictory representations by her.
Well, here's the worst part of the whole thing. It's not just a one-off where you miss something. We get that. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Here, mortgage after mortgage after mortgage. I can't.
There's a pattern.
Has it 4 or less units, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 mortgages.
Let's go to something else. What about, I'm going down the line from your blog.
Don't worry, take your time.
Well, what about rental income? What's the issue relative to her and rental income?
All right. About 10 or 15 years ago, Cranes, New York, did an investigative piece, which I say is really fine work, where it showed that she did not disclose rental income on that Brooklyn property that we just discussed.
Really?
She claimed that it was overlooked. Every excuse to dog ate my homework.
Right.
And she fixed the disclosure on that.
So in other words, she got caught and they didn't hammer her and she fixed it. You have to ask yourself, did the tax people come along?
But here's what bothers me, because you just reminded me of a very, very important point. Somebody has complained several times, I don't know if it's one individual or several individuals, that the property that she owns in Brooklyn is not is inconsistent with the certificate of occupancy. She says it's 4, they say it's 5. Right. And the New York State Department of Building said, oh, it's a minor error. In other words, that doesn't sound too kosher for me.
No.
Because they've gone after property owners, okay, for this time and time again. In other words, that certificate of occupancy is the law of the land in New York City.
No, even I know that.
Right.
And I
don't screw with it, in other words.
I know that. Even I know that just from talking to people, and I'm not a property owner. All right. So rental income didn't go reporting. She was allowed to fix it retroactively. I have to wonder if she paid the taxes on that, but all right, that's a matter of history. Let's move on. I got 2 more issues. First of all, what is this thing with her stating that her father is her husband?
Okay. This is one that I have to give credit to Joel Gilbert again, because he pulled this one out. And I did not build upon it because he said whatever had to be said. In other words, he didn't miss anything on this. Around 1983, she purchases the property. She's about 20 or so years old with her dad. But she takes out a mortgage. It says, on the deed, father, daughter. The mortgage says husband and wife.
Is she married?
No, she's never been married unless, and unless she married a father, I can't explain.
All right. That's another discrepancy that's got to be looked at.
But it goes back. Now, this is beyond the statute of limitations,
No, I know, but
1983.
like
But it shows you the pattern of
it goes to the pattern.
misbehavior.
But let me ask you, why would she do that? Is there some advantage to having your
Yes,
husband? What?
yes. According to Gilbert, is you get favorable terms
Yeah.
if the mortgage is with two spouses and between two co-owners, so to speak, that are not spouses.
All right. Let me do the last one now because, we've covered a whole host of inconsistencies and apparent problems in her practices relative to her real estate. This is kind of, frankly, from where I sit, she should probably just buy a house and live in it. This game she's playing with mortgages is what's gotten her into, I think, going to get her into trouble. But what about her travel? What's the story with taxpayer funded travel, et cetera? I know I see this on your blog.
During a period, I'm
Go
sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
During a period from 2021 to 2022, she took several trips on a private jet on the taxpayer's dime.
Okay.
It was to a company called Venture Jets.
Mm.
Now, what was interesting about that is no other New York State agency, government entity has ever used this specific company.
Mm.
And a few of the dates coincide where she was attending campaign events.
So, in other words, she is going on a private jet to campaign events and the jet is being paid for by taxpayers.
That's what it appears.
Right.
Unlike the disclosures on the mortgages where I can say slam dunk, I can't say that because I'm waiting for my FOIL request to come in. But it appears to be that way.
Sammy, I got to ask you something.
Yeah.
Why is it, I'm sure you're wondering the same thing. Why is it you finding all of this stuff? Here you are, in an apartment in Manhattan like me, and you're finding all of this stuff. And like you would like to think that of all the various, there's been a lot in the media lately about how bloated our government is. Doge is starting to cut away a lot of that. But God help us. Where have all the government investigators who are supposed to be keeping at the state, city, and federal level, they're supposed to be keeping our government representatives honest? Where have they all been? Why is it you and a handful of people you know?
Well, the FBI in my day that investigated me at Crazy Eddie's and brought me to justice doesn't exist today. And I could say that pretty much about every other government agency that there is. It didn't take me much to uncover this information. All I had to do was to read the filings, cross-check the information, fact-check gazillion times, and find it. I did this. I'm not being paid by anybody. Nobody coaxed me into doing it. Nobody said, go look at this, go look at that, go look at this. I did this on my own free time as, I hate to say it to you, but you once told me, fun with a purpose. I did it strictly for that.
This is being done on your own time and your own dime.
And I'm taking a lot of risks doing it.
So, have you gotten any blowback from any place regarding any quarters coming?
Oh, yeah.
Well, who's coming at you now?
Okay. NewJersey.com did a hit piece on me.
Right.
They said that Sam Antar is working with Trump or something like that, something close to that.
Which is not true, right?
Not true. Not true. Never spoke to the guy. Except on Twitter where I said, "Dear Donald Trump," but never spoke. I had a real communication with the guy. Whatever. And then they go on to say that he was recently jailed for fraud in 2014 or 2013 and 2022, where he built people out of their life savings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Talking about you.
Yeah, me. Two untruths. Now, here's the problem. My name is Sammy Antar. I'm the former chief financial officer of Crazy Eddie's, and I own everything I've done in the past. I've never concealed it. It's there in black and white wherever I am.
Right.
But when they were talking about my criminal record, in other words, as if I'm a recent criminal, They used the criminal record of a different Sam Antar, Sam A. Antar, the son of one of the co-conspirators I testified against in the Crazy Eddie trial. Sam
Completely
A.
different.
Antar never worked for Crazy Eddie. Sam A. Antar built people in 2013 and 2022, went to jail both times, and it wasn't me. So, this is something, was malicious, was intentional. And I wasn't going to stand by it, so I replied to it.
So, and did the writer of this article have the journalistic integrity to reach out to you? Did they ever talk to
No,
you?
they never reached out to
Well,
me. And
that's
then when they
journalism
then
101,
when they
man. Come
changed
on.
in reaction to me, they didn't acknowledge any mistakes.
Well, that's a hack because only a hack journalist, I'm sorry, doesn't reach out to the principal. If you're doing an article on someone, of course you call. You gotta do that, even if you don't want to. I've been in that spot. We gotta say, you know what? We gotta call them to get a reaction here because we gotta see if there's another side to the story. And let me just finish. Sometimes you make that call and you get the other side and you say, you know what? This story kind of isn't what we thought, and you don't go with it. That's journalistic integrity. Go ahead.
That's also investigative integrity. Plenty of times I've chased things that I thought were going to be like the smoking gun, and it didn't turn out.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's fine.
that's hack work. I'm sorry, but that's hack work. I don't know who wrote it, but that's terrible.
She did hack work, and it was totally improper. And I wasn't going to stand for it. Usually, I could take a lot of crap. People threaten me on Twitter. They say nasty things. I could take all of that fucking crap. But here's the thing: I was a criminal 30 years ago. What I do today has okay. What I did yesterday in 35 years ago has no bearing on what I'm doing today.
Well, not only that, but correct me.
She sought to invalidate everything I've done for 30 years to say,
all right, but I get it. But correct me if I'm wrong. But you, subsequent to the Crazy Eddie thing, where you pled and you cooperated with the government, you testified. You then worked with the government, helping them and advising them on white collar fraud. Am I wrong?
That is correct. The FBI, HUD, the Internal Revenue, you name every three-lettered agency, I've worked for them.
So
DOJ.
Yeah, so that just really doesn't hold water, and the fact that they didn't contact you for a quote and to give you a side of it is really shameful.
The fact they didn't even fact check.
Yeah, that's really lame.
Unless they deliberately ignored it.
Now let me ask you one last question. Did anybody? A lot of what you've done has gained public attention on X, Twitter. All right. Was there any effort to get you out of Twitter or to counteract you on Twitter, or have you gotten a lot of grief on Twitter? What's the atmosphere been on Twitter?
I've heard, and I can't say from whom or where, that she's been trying to get me deplatformed off of Twitter.
She who?
Letitia James, or one of her surrogates.
Interesting. So they want you out.
And I also heard
Musk is
I also heard about a month before this hit piece that NewJersey.com did for me. She was also shopping for somebody to do a hit piece on me. Now, did she do it or not? This is what I've heard. I don't have to, but coincidentally, the hit piece was done only a day or two ago.
Hey, listen. The bottom line is, if you have the facts, there's only so much they can do. I mean, that said, we all know the left, they're so convinced of their rectitude that they are going to play fast and loose. But you have the documents, you got the receipts.
Yeah, they're all for rehabilitating criminals until the criminal or the former criminal does something they disagree with. Then all of a sudden you're a criminal. What incentive is there for anybody to turn their life around when something they did 30 years ago is weaponized against them?
It's more than 30 years ago, Sammy. It's got to be
20 years ago.
Yeah, it's got to be. I'm thinking back because I was a kid when those commercials were out. All right, let me ask you a last question. I'm going to give you the last word. Where is all of this going? And I'm not talking about an indictment in the investigation. That's out of both of our hands. That's gone over to the feds. But where are you going relative to this? Is there anything left to investigate? Are there other shoes to drop? Is there anything else coming? Where does Sam Antar go next?
Every time I think there are no more shoes to drop, I find shoes to drop. This is continuing on my part. This has been what you would call a real-time forensic accounting investigation done published in my blog and on social media, going along, showing people what I'm doing, showing people what I found, documenting it, and who knows where else this is going to lead to. I
So,
can say that if anything else comes up, I will get it.
so that's where I was going, and that's what I'm going to use to close us out, because what you've done is getting a lot of attention now. And I see other entities online, on X, on the internet in general, talking about other potential investigations here. People are looking at who is living in these houses in Virginia. And are there other things going on? Stuff that, maybe is nibbling at the edges, but other shoes could drop, as we say. Well, Sammy, first of all, congrats on the great work. Keep doing what you're doing. What I like personally is the fact that you are so anal, I'm going to use that word, anal, about making sure that what you have is sourced and supported. You go get the documents. You don't come out and just throw accusations all over the place. We don't know where this is going. Tish James gets her say. Maybe she's got answers. You've asked her for answers. Fox has asked for answers. We'll see where it goes. But the bottom line is you got to corroborate, and you do corroborate.
Right. Everything that's in my blog is corroborated to the source documents. If I forgot one link out of 100, okay, kill me. Let me know what it is, and I'll fix it.
And that's important. And that's important. And that's why we can talk about it, because you're doing your due diligence.
Right.
Folks, that's going to do it for us tonight. This has been really, really interesting, and obviously it is not over. Special thanks to Sam Antar, accountant extraordinaire. You're going to be hearing from him again.
Special thanks to you.
Well, I appreciate that, but you know what? You're the one who did the scut work here. You did the sweat work, and I think we're going to be hearing a lot going forward, certainly in the upcoming days. This thing is not over, and now there's been this criminal referral to DOJ, and that's the top of the food chain. Sammy, you've made some real waves. Congratulations to you. And we'll have you back real soon with the next development.
And thank you, and God bless you and your family. And I really appreciate you giving me a chance to air my views and my investigations.
Anytime. That's going to do it for us, folks, here on the Ops Desk. We will talk soon. All of you, please stay safe.